Ghost Style, the art of stealth. As a fellow player who loves stealth games, specifically the Metal Gear Solid series, may it rest in peace please, when Phantom was first revealed, I looked forward to his release. It seemed like his playstyle was right up my alley. And it is! So Phantom is basically my main, and this pretty much means I'm a fucking dumbass. Okay, look, we all know the story now about Phantom, why he's not viable for Dirty Bomb's competitive environment. But frankly, I don't really give a damn about it, even if it is the core of this game. I play this game to have fun in the public service as my mercenary of choice, and mostly to play with my friends and fans. But, enough about that, let's get down to business with Phantom's main ability, Refractive Armor, also known as his cloak. This ability pretty much makes Phantom almost invisible, like 90% invisible, as long as he does not move. If he moves while using the cloak, Phantom's invisibility decreases. The faster he moves while using the cloak, the more visible he becomes, and the cloak's noise gets louder. That's why if you are going to use the cloak to sneak around, make sure you are actually crouch walking to maximize your invisibility, or just crouch and stay still while in use. To put it simply, crouching and staying still is about as invisible as you are gonna get. Crouch walking is second, walking upright is third, and running and jumping while using the cloak makes you as visible as the fucking sun in the sky. Also, it comes with an EMP area of effect while in use, which disables nearby electronics such as Aura's Elf Station, Bushwhacker's Turret, and Vasily's Heartbeat Sensor, among others. These deployables will stay disabled as long as they are within the EMP field, and if the deployable is out of the field, it will not be activated again until 5 seconds later. Pretty useful for screwing up the opposing team's defense setup with their deployables being temporarily disabled, and thanks to this, he is specifically hard counter against Aura's, Aura and Fletcher's sticky bombs, also known as the spicy meatballs. Now don't get me wrong, I like this addition to Phantom's ability, but at the moment I just don't like the way it works. The EMP actually makes Phantom less stealthy because the enemy knows you are near their deployable. They don't know exactly where, but they know you're somewhere there. Alright? So Phantom's EMP ability kinda sucks for stealth, but it can create some great mind games with the enemy if you stay sneaky while they panic and wonder where the hell you are, which creates a great moment for you to start killing. This whole problem could be fixed if the EMP could be activated separately instead of with the cloak, but because splash damage is too concerned with every other problem of this game, this seems like a dream. Oh well. Back to the cloak itself. Depending on your movement, the cloak itself will not last long if you are running and jumping around. But if you stay still, the cloak will last longer. Just for reference sake, activating it and standing still while doing nothing will make the cloak last for around 16 seconds without undercover. Moving around will shorten this time. The cloak can also act as a damage absorber. If you get shot while using the cloak's uptime will go down, but you will take no damage depending on how much you actually take. It used to absorb more damage, but everyone cried like a baby about it, so now it absorbs barely any damage these days. But if you are under fire and want to get out of it, consider using the cloak to give yourself more health while you monkey style away from the fight. Or into the fight, depends on the situation. Also, before I forget, as soon as you attack using your gun or blade while in use, it will disappear and go on cooldown, so consider your plan of attack wisely, or you will die quickly. Now for some tips related to Ghost Style. A popular technique I like to use while playing Phantom is what I like to call swindling. It involves me shooting or stabbing the enemy and then quickly run around a corner or wall and pretty much bait the enemy to follow. Before they come round the corner, I would activate my cloak, stand completely still, and either wait for the enemy to have their backs turned, or if they are running towards my position and if they are a lightweight merc, I would give them a surprise stab to kill them instantly, which leads to my second technique, known as the heart attack stab. This involves you standing near an entryway, such as a doorway, the enemy will go through while cloaked, and promptly stab them as they come through. Ghost Style requires great patience from the user, and this technique definitely requires it. This will ensure that you can give the enemy a surprising death with no reaction time for them. Another technique I like to use is medication bait. This involves killing an enemy, but not finishing them. I then wait for a medic or a good Samaritan to show up and try to revive them. I would then either stab the medic or shoot them from a distance. You will probably rarely use this technique, but it's good to know for the sake of mind games with the enemy. If you see an ore station, immediately activate the cloak and go near it so the enemy team can heal themselves using it. In fact, if you see any sort of defensive setup around an objective which includes mines, turrets, or ore stations, activate the cloak so that your team can drop in and plant the C4. Keep in mind, this only disables them, not destroy them, so make sure you destroy them too. For example, a popular place for deployables is the first objective on Underground. Go on the roof of it and activate the cloak. I can guarantee you there is always going to be something to deactivate there. Also, while using the cloak, if you go near a doorway and if there's a proxy mine there, you might as well just activate the cloak. I mean, you could shoot it, but if there is no way to shoot it, you could just use the cloak and go through it, and it won't explode. Ghost style goes well with blade and gun style. With blade style, you can use the element that surprises your cloak for heart attack stabs and CQC battles. And with gun style, you can keep your distance from an enemy while using the cloak and aim at their head and gun them down while they're distracted. However, when it comes to monkey style, the only good case of that combo being good is if you are retreating from heavy fire and absorbing damage with the cloak, or if you activate it and monkey style towards an enemy shooting at you to confuse them and absorb some damage before you blade them. Always keep an eye on your cooldown. You can't just activate and deactivate it all willy-nilly. Activating it will give it an instant 6-second cooldown time, and it will stay up till it reaches 12 seconds. Then it will deactivate, and you will have to wait to activate it again, so you will have to strategize using the cloak and keep in mind the cooldown of it. Or else you will find yourself hammering the button the cloak when you need it most without success, and die miserably. Now, let's move on to all the loadouts for Phantom. Now, before I start this chapter, I just want to let you know that I thought about actually discussing these loadouts in detail. But then I realized that would take forever. So get ready, because I'm gonna rapid fire this. Let's begin. Shit. Not great. Pretty good, but second edition is better. Borderline Suicide. This one's decent. Just wish it had spares instead of untrackable. Meh. This one's good. This is the one I used for the In the Hall of the Phantom King video. I do not recommend it. Are you fucking nuts? Good God, no. The original Cricket Ninja loadout. I have this fucker in Cobalt. I want to kill myself. My favorite Blishlock loadout. I recommend this one. Favorite loadout for Phantom. Period. Cricket Ninja. I might have to come back to this one. This one's good if you're going to use the gun a lot. This one is very helpful and I would recommend it. Personally not a fan. This one's pretty good and I would use it, but I prefer Quick Slash more. Told you it was going to be quick. Well, I asked you guys in the last video if you had any tips and tricks for Phantom, and you guys delivered. Thank you. Now let's get started. Keep in mind, Red Eye sees you. Red Eye is pretty much Phantom's biggest counter in the game, thanks to his IR goggles, which allows him to spot Phantom even while he is cloaked. So if you see a Red Eye, well, he can see you too. So your stealth capabilities will be lowered significantly. Oh my, that's a lot of writing. I'll try and summarize it. As Phantom, don't run with the cloak. Walking or crouching with it will make you way more invisible. This is true. Try not to stay in too open spaces because you will get wrecked by snipers and fire supports. Yes, as a Phantom, you generally do not want to be out in the open. Phantoms are more useful in close quarters due to their weapons, but they are not useful when fighting out in the open. they usually just die trying to do that. Don't be afraid to crouch into enemy lines while invisible. Just try not to stop them or else they'll kill you. This basically means that if you are infiltrating behind enemy lines, you need to carefully plan your next move. If there are too many enemies to fight on your own, consider aiming for the medics or lightweight mercenaries instead of taking them all on, or else you will just get killed. When defending an objective, turn on your EMP cloak, and if you're sure there is no natives or something, go on the objective and wait for proxy bitches to stab them. Ah yes, this is called guarding. Normally, if the objective is under heavy fire, I would normally go near it and activate the cloak, and wait for anyone who tries to plant the bomb. As soon as they attempt to, I will then strike them down before they can finish planting, which earns you the cutting that fine medal in game. You are also invisible on machine gun turrets when the cloak is on. That is true. If you activate the cloak, you can still mount a machine gun without deactivating it, and you can surprise your enemy with a sudden machine gun turret attack. Although, personally, I think going on machine guns is a heavy risk to take, due to your head being easier to fire at. SAS Commando finds it effective to create panic and fear in the enemy, for example, camping near an enemy healing station. When you cloak, they panic and look for you, then you emerge and move fast and swipe them down. Yes, this gives me great pleasure when I create fear for the enemy, and they are more susceptible to my attacks when there is no source of healing. In execution, Phantom can be really helpful as a scout, since he can somewhat go invisible at one of the pylons, A or B. Then he can just report where the enemy might be. Pretty much the only time he's useful as a recon merc. This is a very good tip if you actually play execution, which I don't, but hey, it's good to know in case I go back to it. Devere Ben basically tells us how to be a good Phantom in just 3 words. Be a dick. That's not entirely true, but it's mostly true. Phantom's cloak can sometimes be used as a shield to, for example, give you a little more time to escape or cover a teammate. Most of the time it's not really effective since it's easily taken down. To be honest, when escaping, it's better just to hide once out of sight. Holy Jesus, that's a lot to read. Makes a lot of spectral force. Alright. Take the time to learn the revolver. First and foremost, it slows you down less than the SMGs do, which makes it easier to strafe with it. Second, it is faster to switch to revolvers than the SMGs. This makes shooting retreating enemies faster and easier. Finally, it does a lot of burst damage. This is important for several reasons. First, keep in mind that you can kill 90 HP targets in 3 body shots, 100 HP for Smith Wesson, and 120 HP targets in 4 body shots / 2 headshots. Second, revolvers always shoot exactly where you are aiming unless you are spamming at maximum rate of fire, which makes them more consistent damage dealers compared to SMGs and their recoil. Finally, depending on your skill / luck, revolvers do 30/60 damage, 34/68 for Smith and Wesson, the instant you press left mouse button. If the opponent is low on health, it is usually better to finish them off with a revolver rather than rely on the more saturated damage of SMGs. This also ties in with the consistency versus recoil argument. There are also a few minor advantages that are somewhat subjective. Enemies thinking you're out of ammo on the SMG and underestimating you, feeling like a badass, etc. Another tip that I give to people is learning the, as I like to call them, damage combos. People usually learn how many stab swings it takes to kill certain mercs and stop there. Learning how katana damage combos with revolver damage can greatly improve your gameplay. Some examples. Swing plus a body shot equals 90 damage, 103 on C94. Swing / headshot / 2 body shots equals 120 damage, 137 on C94. Or stab plus body shot also adds 2, 120 damage, 138 on C94. Knowing how to utilize these will give you more options to consistently kill enemies. Enemies tend to get really confused when you jump over their head. Try to stick to narrow but tall corridors when you take advantage of this. Alleyway on bridge is a good example. Also, there was ever a time in FPS history where doubling back did not work. This simple trick still nets him a couple kills. The lower your health when you're doing it, the higher the chance they will fall for it. On defense is Phantom. If you know where the other team is going to push into, set up around the corner before they come if possible, and cloak and crouch around it. When you think the last one has ran past you, you start engaging the people who just ran past you. And wow, it's almost 16 minutes since the start of the video, so I should probably stop now. I would like to keep going and read all of your tips, but I really don't want to make this video super long, so I'm gonna have to stop. If you want more tips about how to play Phantom, then I suggest you go back to part 2 and read the comments. I would like to thank all the users who commented tips and tricks on part 2 of the study of the blade, and I am sorry that I could not read them all. Also, this is the last part of the study of the blade, so I thank you all very much for watching. Now, if you excuse me, I'm gonna edit another Phantom montage. Later, Dirty Bombers, and don't forget to study the blade.